All right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Welcome everybody to the Doc and the Radical program today. And we have a very interesting topic as always. But before we go into our topic, Doc, you want to come on in and introduce yourself?
Dr. James Thomas Jones III, Catherine Viola Jones's baby boy, associate professor of African American Studies. I do race, I do class, I do labor history. I research working class people, and also I do Black manhood studies and hip hop culture. And so happy 50th birthday, hip hop culture. We made it to 50 years. The greatest gift my generation gave the world, being squandered and ruined by the most recent generation. So I'm holding out hope on Big Crit and all them to hold it down a little until the next generation can come. But some of them, nah, that's not hip hop.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I saw one of Lil Nas X videos. Oh my God! When I saw that, I could not believe it. I could not believe it. I was like, "What in the world?" I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to decide if I want to go see this old school hip hop concert they got coming through here. My hesitation is a couple of them cats. They don't give a good show now. I didn't seen them before, and Slick Rick does not give a good show. You know, the ruler just walks back and forth on the stage, but hopefully, because Dougie Fresh gonna be there, hopefully he can liven the ruler up. Rakim just classic. You know, DJ Jazzy Jeff is supposed to be there. Scarface will be there, which is going to be different because we're in Houston, and that so we'll see who show up. What type of people show up for Face Mob and Rakim and Big Daddy Kane. And out of all of them, it's Big Daddy Kane to give the best show because he still has Scoop and Scrap Lover dancing for him. And he's like, look here, we're gonna give y'all all we got. But you gotta remember, we mid-50s now. But last time I saw them there, they showed out. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see what's gonna happen.
Wow, now that should be good. Speaking of Rakim, on not our last, but I think it was the one before that where we talked about the mystery God. And on the video thumbnail, the picture that everybody see is Rakim's picture. And they were like, "Well, why do you talking about a mystery God, but you got this black man, like saying that this is the mystery God? What is all that about? He don't even rap no more. He passé.
What? they didn't say that about the God.
Yes.
Disrespectful. That's like one of the seals of revelation being broken. That you diss Rakim. Come on. I mean that's Rakim is it's like lyrically before Rakim and after Rakim. Unparalleled. I have one of his lyrics on the wall of my office to as inspiration, and it's that the line from I Know You Got Soul, because I start to think, and then I sink into the paper like I was ink. When I'm writing, I'm trapped in between the lines. I escape. When I finish the rhyme, I got soul. Yeah. Whenever, you know, I got some profound hip hop lyrics, I don't need Plato, Socrates. I got Rakim. I got Grand Verbalizer, Funkin' Lesson Brother J from X Clan. KRS-One, Pac. Those are my writing inspirations. I don't need to go over there to the other side and pick up Mark
Exactly.
Twain and all. Come on, come on.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
And I think that
don't let them disregard.
and it's like um they don't really have, because it's very interesting. I still know some of his lyrics, that go through my head and stuff. Um, and I can remember coming up and, not really understanding what's being said, but
Mm,
the rhymes get caught up in your head, and you be singing it over and over again. And it's good, it's clean, and then when you get time to think about what you're saying, it's like,
mm,
oh, okay, okay,
mm,
and it's real powerful. I mean, even with Public Enemy, where they was talking about Minister Farrakhan, and I'm a little boy and I'm
mm.
singing it. Farrakhan's a prophet that I think you ought to listen to.
Yeah,
You know what he
yeah.
say to you? Get up and go to do. I didn't know who Farrakhan was, never heard of it. But I'm rapping
Mm.
it. And it's just
You know,
amazing.
yeah, I got to introduce Chuck D. He was
Mm,
lecturing at my school, and part of my lecture was part of the introduction was I thanked him for this lyric, recorded and ordered, supporter a Chesamard.
mm,
I went to find out who Chesamard was because I had never heard the name
mm-hmm,
Chesamard. And
mm-hmm,
it turns out Joanne Chesamard is the government name of Assata Shakur. And I'm like, there's a real connection and explanation for why we have now a generation of intellectuals who are lovers of hip hop
mm-hmm,
and Black thought and Black intellectualism and Black nationalism. You know, yeah. I mean, you can't listen. For me, I can't listen to Nas's Illmatic
mm-hmm,
without smiling. You
mm-hmm,
know, and there's a whole soundtrack of my life that is like that. And
mm-hmm,
yeah, yeah, those
mm-hmm.
cats, they set the standard, and it's, for me, when I go work out, I put on my headphones, noise canceling headphones,
Mm-hmm.
and it's definitely gonna be somebody Black I'm listening to. It might
Right.
be Anita Baker, it might be Luther, but it could just as well be EPMD. It could be,
Mm-hmm.
a host of individuals that really laid that groundwork. Pac,
Mm-hmm.
Big, Brand Nubian, Gangstar,
Mm-hmm.
Premier, Guru. I got into a very terse debate with some individuals about Will Smith.
Mm.
And I'm like, yo, I am telling you, Prince could wreck some of these cats today. Oh no, I said, yo, go back and listen to DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Brand New Funk. I'm like, if you listen to Brand New Funk and you ain't
Mm-hmm.
impressed, okay. But I guarantee you ain't heard of Brand New Funk. Oh, and by the way, happy birthday, man. Happy birthday. That just popped in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
But
bro. Thank you.
yeah, but it's one of those for me, Black music.
Mm-hmm.
The one lyric that I will give this fool that I just don't like him, and I think I don't like him because I remember when he was rhyming off beat so much. It's Common, he has
Mm,
this lyric in this line, and I used to love her. See, black music is black music, and it's all good. And when you break it down, yeah, it's all good, and I I'll stop after this. Because I can talk about hip hop all day. My uncles, especially my uncle Ricky, he was the biggest Parliament and Funkadelic fan ever. He had every single album, every
mm,
one of them. And my grandmother gave them away to his friends when he died. She told them,
mm,
y'all can remember him by this. And I don't think it's ironic that of all the hip hop I listen to, my favorite album is Digital Underground, Sons of the P, Sons of the P
mm,
Funk. That is,
mm,
and I almost feel like, the P Funk is kind of programmed in my DNA. My
mhm,
uncles listen to it, and I can listen to Sons of the P all day, every day.
mm,
Above Nas, Rakim, KRS
mhm,
One, Cube, that one album,
mm.
that album gets me. Yeah.
Do you think, because I know that, well, I don't know it, but it's been said that we communicated, from the motherland using the drum.
Mhm.
And even going into battle, is from the drum. Do you think that there's a correlation between the drum and hip hop music, where
Yeah.
so much so that there had to be a break, or had to be a shift from where it went to where it is now?
You know, to talk about the drum, I mean, if you go back and you research the Stonewall Rebellion,
Mhm,
which is a rebellion that happened in, I want to say, South Carolina. You got to remember that Florida was actually free territory. If you could make it to Florida, because it was settled by the Spanish, it was
mhm,
not a British. So if you made it to Florida, you were free.
mm,
The Stonewall Rebellion, they communicated via the drum, and them brothers
mm,
were running. They ran from like South Carolina to Florida,
mm,
and by using the drum, you know, and they were caught. They got captured because while they're running, a government official somehow was able to slip through, and he notified the other white folk, and that's how they put the Stonewall Rebellion down. Yeah.
oh
So
wow.
the drum, yeah, the drum is something. I think that the drum bothers some white folk, and probably the best evidence I have for that, up in Harlem, and this is probably wow, 25 years ago, 25 years ago. There's a park, St. Nicholas Avenue Park, and I would go to St. Nicholas Avenue Park to read in the morning.
Mhm,
And I don't know if it was Saturday or Sunday. It was one day on the weekend, early in the morning. The brothers came out with the drums, and it was almost as if they were making the sun rise by playing the
mm,
drum. Um, However, white folk got on that homeowners association for that
mhm.
area and banned drumming in the park.
Wow.
You get caught with a drum up in there, you're going to jail. Yeah,
Mm,
they took over the homeowners association, and because they said they wanted to sleep in on the weekend. And here you have all this drumming going on and blah 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 blah. So yeah,
mm,
there's something about the drum. There's something about music that that activates our soul, and that's just what it is. And I try and tell people um, to take a listen to John Coltrane, especially his album Ballads.
mhm,
Um, Incredible. You know, many people know Love Supreme, and they vibe with that. But ballads for me, I think it's the John Coltrane Quartet.
Mhm.
Um, and my go-to song that during one of the roughest times of my life, you know, I had made a bucket list at the advice of my then dean, Danny Kelly, and number two or three on that bucket list was that I wanted to be in the room when Terence Blanchard played Over There.
Mhm.
Okay. I said I want to be in the room when he does that. And one of my best friends, Dr. Phelps, she we were living together at the time. We were roommates at the time. And she
Mhm.
comes in and she says, I got something for you. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And she said, yo, Terence Blanchard is going to be the artist in residence at the University of Houston for like a week. And then he was going to give a concert on that Saturday. And I'm like, you kidding? She said, no. So I go down there every day, you
Mhm.
know, and I'm talking with the conductor of their jazz symphony orchestra. And he's because I'm the only one that showed up out of the entire the rest were students and things. I'm the only one that was just like a person interested.
Mhm.
And we had struck up a conversation. I explained to him that I listened to Over There, you know, every day. That Over There is really a song that really saved my life, pulled me back from the age.
Mhm.
And Terence Blanchard walks in to the rehearsal on like Wednesday after I had spoke with the conductor about, you know, how much this song and Terence Blanchard meant to me. And he looked at me and he said something that is hard for me to believe, but believable. He
Mhm.
said, you probably won't believe this, but Terence needs to hear what you just said
Mhm.
more than you want to be here because he doesn't believe that his music is making a difference with his people. Okay. And this is a white guy that
Wow.
I'm talking to. And so on that Wednesday, when Terence Blanchard comes in to teach them Over There,
Mhm.
the conductor, and keep in mind, I'm the only one there.
Mhm.
The conductor stops everything, goes and gets a chair, and he sets the chair next to Terence Blanchard, and he motions in my direction, "Come here, come here."
Mhm.
Okay, and I'm still sitting back there like, when he gonna start playing? You know, this and that, right? And he ends up doing like you because, and I'm the only one in the back. He said,
Mhm.
"Come here." Man, I sat next to Terence Blanchard while he rehearsed and played Over There. You know,
Wow.
one of my two greatest musical experiences. And you know, I was so enamored with the song when Terence Blanchard blew the spit out of his trumpet. It went on my shoe, and I
Mhm.
said, "You know what? I'm never gonna wash this shoe again. That's it." And and ironically, the other major memory for me was I have a student who's in many ways like a son, younger brother to me, who made it big in hip hop. He
Mhm.
was signed to Def Jam,
Oh,
and
wow.
so yeah, he was signed to Def Jam, and had like a top 10 single. And
Mhm.
he's like an old blues musician now. He does that same song every weekend. He hitting these little off the these chitlin circuit hip
Mhm.
hop clubs, people showing up, and he's like, Jones, look here, I got to get it. I'm like, yo. And when he adds up what he makes, he's making six figures just
Oh,
working on
wow.
Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so for his graduation gift, I said, yo, I try to do something for those that were close to me that is
Mhm.
kind of personal. And I took him to see Rakim perform in
Mhm.
Austin. And so
Mhm.
we're there, and Rakim Rakim's manager at the time was a young white dude.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the 5% rhetoric, you know, they don't, they get a couple of disses in, white folk. And the song The Ghetto, and Rakim clearly didn't want to do the lyric of the ghetto,
Mm-hmm.
and so he comes towards the crowd, and it's probably only maybe 100 people in the
Mm-hmm.
audience, and he lowers the mic like he wants us to say, the lyric, and they didn't know it. And I was like, yo, I'm glad I listened when my father was rapping to, because back in the days they lived in caves, exiled from the original man, they strayed away. And that's what I call hard time. And so Rakim finishes his set, X, Y, and Z. My student is hobnobbing with Rhyme Fest DJ. He's trying to convince him to go on tour with him. Like, man, look, when I do this tour, I want you to come with me. They're backstage talking, and Rakim comes off the stage, and Rakim said, "Hey, yo, who's the old dude that knew all of my lyrics?" Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my student was like, he said, "Yo, that's my professor." He said, "What? That dude a professor?" He said, "Yeah." He said he brought me here as my graduation gift. He was like, "Yo, go get him, bring him back here." And so I chopped it up with Rakim for a while. Um, and one of the things I learned about him, number one, how humble he is, but number two, that the brother has a photographic memory.
Mm-hmm.
And he says to me, he said, "Have you ever seen me perform before?" I said, "No." He said, "This is our first time meeting." He said, "Nah, because I know that I've seen your face before." He said, "I don't know where." He said, "But I've seen you before." And he said, "It'll come to me." And so we're talking. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to tell you where you saw my picture. You saw my picture in hanging up in the 5% of school in Harlem. I went by there and bought some newspapers and gave a donation. And the guy, we're talking. He found out I was a professor. He said, "Man, I got to get your picture." And I told him, "You can only take my picture as a Polaroid." Okay. And I'm like, "You can only take my picture if you hang it next to Rakim." And Rakim said, "Yeah, that's where I saw it." He said, "I was just in there." He said, "I saw." He said, "I wondered who that was hanging up next to me." I said, "Yeah,
Mm.
that's how I got there." So yeah, hip hop,
Wow.
50 years, man, 50 years, you know,
Mm, mm, mm,
and, she's
mm,
still going strong, but, I don't
mhm.
know, you know.
Do you see a way to get it to revert back to the right way, back to where it started?
No, I don't think we're ever going to go back to where it started, but I think the problem with hip hop is a relatively simple one, that we've allowed radio and music videos and budgets to dictate to us what hip hop is. And that is, in many ways, one of the clearest signs that we're not connected to hip hop anymore. Because for every, let's say, Migos, you got Big Crit. You know what I'm saying? You got
Mhm,
J. Cole. You got these cats who may not be played on the radio, but they're
mhm,
actually doing what we remember as real hip hop. And it's a frustrating thing for those who support real hip hop,
mhm,
because when we talk about hip hop, so often we're talking about those that have been promoted one way or another, and not the real true hip hop. And that's an issue. That's a
mm,
major issue. So getting it back to where it was, no, but there's always been room for
mhm,
everybody in hip hop. I mean, at the same time that we had Public Enemy, okay, Fight the Power, Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos. We
mhm.
had Luther Campbell, okay, and Two Live Crew. Okay. Now we like to, when we remember back, we don't like to talk about that. But yeah, we had, hey, we on the run. That
Yeah,
was there
yeah.
at the same time that Chuck D them were there. Okay, and
Mhm.
you go and you listen to Biz Markie. Okay,
Mhm.
same thing, doing kind of this weird Al Yankovic thing with the vapors and things like that.
Mhm.
And then if we're going to be honest about it, and we're going to really talk about it, let us not forget Das Effects. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
Bump skiggity bump bump. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
What
Exactly. Exactly.
Peter
Mm.
Piper, I'm hyper than Pinocchio's nose because I'm a supercalifragilistic tic tac toe. They're not saying nothing, you know. But we act like everybody was Chuck D and KRS-One during the
Mhm.
time. No, no, there was room for everybody, and pretty much everybody got played, and
Mhm.
everybody got supported and promoted. You
Mhm.
know, look at the South Park Stalker, Scarface. You
Mhm.
know, go back and listen to My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me. That's a song about depression,
Mhm.
mental illness,
Mhm.
you know, and even Face Mob, got love, but
Mhm.
you better be in a good mood when you listen to some of these Houston brothers. You listen to Zero on a bad day, you may kill yourself.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
I love
Wow.
hip hop, man, through and through.
Wow. So what would you define it as? What is hip hop? How would you define it?
The most succinct and direct way to determine where Black folks' soul is at any given moment.
Mm.
You go home and you listen to what's hot as far as hip hop, and that will tell you what Black folk are valuing, what they are celebrating. In many ways, what reflects them.
Mm.
But in saying that, I also recognize that at the same time, there's a segment of our community who are engaged in hip hop, whose ideas in love is kind of muted because those that they love are not being even talked about, even being considered.
Mhm.
But we got some brothers out here who, I call on him often because I believe that he's the modern day savior of,
Mhm.
of hip hop culture. Big Crit, King Recognized in Time. He's got a song that when I miss my mother and my grandmother, that I just play on a loop. I gotta stay,
Mhm.
and it's a letter that he wrote to his grandmother. You know, about how he wish that he could go with her to the afterlife, but I gotta
Mm.
stay. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the
Wow.
it's the it's the heartbeat of America. And if you're watching us have junk and filth, it would be similar to a body that is suffering from high cholesterol, high
Mm.
blood pressure. We're not doing well right now, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm. Wow. Wow. And I was watching a clip on YouTube, and they were talking about Eminem being the GOAT of hip hop. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, what the fuck? We make this white boy the GOAT, you know? And I'm not gonna lie, he got some good songs out there, that make you, yeah, that know how to hype you up. But I would not say he's the greatest of all time. Um, what do you say about that?
About M being the
Yeah.
greatest of all time?
Mhm.
No,
Uh-huh.
M's not the greatest of all time. There's no. But M is damn good, and
Yes.
that's it's I won't disqualify M
Right.
because of his race.
Hmm.
M is a hell of a rapper.
Hmm.
Um, but the greatest of all time. I mean, you talking about the tip top pinnacle, of
Exactly.
the game. And one of the things that I often do with my students, it's kind of an icebreaker question for anybody. I ask them, give me your starting five. who you're
Mhm.
rolling with, in hip
Mhm.
hop. And one of the things that always amazes me, and it really reflects the lack of the brevity of their engagement and understanding of hip hop. They'll
Mhm.
name five individuals from the same generation.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I and my response is always, if you were not definitively one, or if there was a great person there as well, one or two, when we get to three, four, and five, they don't belong on that list.
Mhm.
They just don't, because they were not the greatest even of their generation. It would be the
Mhm.
same as saying, well, Kareem, Magic, Bird, Dr. J, and Kevin McHale. Yeah, okay, well, you might be able to get away talking about what Magic and Bird,
Mhm.
but if you taking five from what was basically a NBA Finals competition of the same
Mhm.
generation. Nah, but M is top 25, top
Mhm.
20 without a
Mhm.
doubt.
Mhm.
And we can't slip into what other folk do and
Mhm.
say, well, just because of his race, we're gonna knock him down a couple of pegs. No, let him stand on his own.
Mhm.
And but he's not, and this is one of the things that has shocked me about myself, because I'm always willing and trying to engage hip hop, learn something new, experience something new. I just actually recently went back and listened to, at the behest of one of my students, Joey
Mhm.
Badass's album 1999.
Mhm.
But my number one has changed in the last 2 months. And I never thought nobody would topple Rakim. I just
Mhm.
I just didn't. I never saw that. But
Mhm.
engaging hip hop, um, Wayne got him. Lil Wayne got him, and
Mhm.
it's one of those where Wayne has been rhyming since he was three, probably. You know, he got him. My greatest of all time is Lil Wayne. But you
Wow.
you can't put M doesn't belong. J don't belong up in the same
Mhm.
sentence as a Wayne or Rakim or a Nas,
Mhm.
Scarface. These are tip top of the game
Mhm.
type cats that really only come around once a generation.
Mhm.
You ain't you'll never have no three Kobe's in the same generation.
Right.
No
Right.
no four Jordans. You're not gonna have that.
Mhm. Let me ask you about this, because I was watching another clip where DMX was talking, and they was like, people were saying that I'm the next Tupac. And he said, no, I'm not the next Tupac. I'm the first X.
First
Uh,
X.
I'm the first X. Yes. Um, is Tupac? I mean, is X? Would you say he was on the level of a Tupac, or he outseated Tupac? How would you rate those two?
Yes. And I'm biased because I knew X.
Mm,
Um, so yes, I can say that definitively. Yes, X
mhm,
X. If you were to create your criterion for soul and transparency,
mhm,
X is the greatest rapper of all time.
mm,
Okay, if that's your evaluation criterion, X lets you
mhm.
see him. Okay,
Yes.
all of his shortcomings, his frailties.
Mhm,
Um, go back and once again, um, I talked about Terrence Blanchard's Over There.
mhm,
Um, a close second to that during that time period of my life was Lord Give Me a Sign.
mm,
You know,
mm,
um, man, if you listen to the Lord Give Me a Sign and it don't move you, you're already dead.
mhm,
Because that is a man, a black man who is in every way the same way that Lee Morgan, the same way that John Coltrane. Someone said this so beautifully about jazz. said that what jazz really is a black man suffering.
Mm.
That's really what it is. And so you have to respect that. You got to respect X for his transparency. You got to respect that here. This is a man who put a prayer on every one of his albums. Ain't nobody else doing that. You know what I'm saying? And you listen to that prayer. That was a hell of a prayer. You know,
Yes.
and you know, X is one of the, you know, I would refer to him as one of the greatest storytellers that
Mhm.
we ever had, you know, or ever will have, you know. So
Mhm.
you ask me who I would rate higher, X or Pac, X, hands down,
Mhm.
hands down. It's not even close.
Mhm. Yeah, his prayers were definitely moving and thoughtful. Just like wow,
Yeah,
just like wow.
yeah,
And to be able to move a crowd with a prayer, and you got pastors that can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Um,
yeah. I mean,
the,
to be able to strip it all off in
Mhm.
front of people and show your vulnerability. Number one, it takes courage.
Mhm.
Um, and it in many ways emboldens, almost like a supercharge. It emboldens people who are watching this because, and it's the same thing with how I feel about X. I identify with that guy.
Mm.
I understand what it's like to have an addiction that you can't handle. You know,
Mm.
that you literally cannot stop. But it doesn't rob you of who you are at your core. You
Mhm.
know, you still have those same traits, you know, and in many ways when you look at a figure like X, um you're looking at somebody who's showing you what the bottom looks like. And if it can happen to him, you know, it can
Mhm.
happen to any of us. And that's it's just what it is.
Mm. Mm. And do you think that if he did not uh get bad on drugs, if that person
Mhm,
never laced his weed or whatever they laced it with,
mhm.
how far do you think he would have gotten?
I don't know. I don't think that people like X live long because
Mm.
they shine so brightly that
Mhm.
it gets burned out after a while. You know, if it hadn't have been that occurring, you know, the tumultuous, you know, and turbulent childhood, um, that which happens, I believe this, that which happens to us as children, we spend our entire adult lives trying to straighten out.
Mm.
And sometimes we never get it straightened out. It's really
Mhm.
a life's mission, which is one of the reasons why it's so important to protect your children. You
Mhm.
know, because things will happen, and they'll carry that forward with them. I can't answer that how long he would have and where he would have ended up at. Same thing with Pac.
Mhm.
Where would Pac have ended up at when you consider what he had been through, what had been poured into him?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
But do you think Pac was being true to himself? Like for instance, and I've watched a few of the documentaries, so I'm only going
Mhm,
by from what I watched on the TV. Um, but they all said that he was not this, thug life type of individual. He wasn't this person that was like Suge Knight, that's the gangster, da da da. That was not him, and a lot of the people that he was rapping about killed this person, did that. That's what he heard of somebody else, and he brung it
mhm.
and put it on wax. But that persona that he was, that wasn't the true him. Um, what's
See,
your thoughts on that?
a lot of people have said that about Pac, and what I'll say is that many of those people say that that pivot point for him was actually when he played the character Bishop in Juice.
Mm.
That he could have, in some ways kind of gotten trapped into that. And there's something to be said for actors um, who and I think this applies to Pac. Pac is trying to play chess.
Mhm.
So he's trying to, I would argue that he was trying to, in his thug-like persona, to appeal to the base elements that lead to loyalty and admiration within Black men. It's the
Mm.
reason, from my perspective, that you see Black men loving O-Dog from Menace to
Mhm.
Society and they don't even know who Darius is from
Mhm.
Love Jones.
Mhm.
Same actor. Okay, but one is a psychopath, a sociopath, and the other
Right.
one writes poetry. I believe that Pac was trying to line that group of individuals up, and hopefully he would have gotten to the point where he was going to try to bring us all together in unity.
Mm.
Um, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen, and you have to really. There's one thing for a person to have unbridled hatred and ignorance.
Mhm.
There's another thing for you to know something different, and your stuff is never pure. And I believe that that's Pac. That Pac raised up within the Black Liberation Army. He understands.
Mm.
We talk about Mutulu, we talk about Asada, we talk about Afeni, we talk about Seko Odinga, and the list goes on and on of these Black revolutionaries that he's been exposed to. Geronimo Jajaga, another brother. Um, you don't just lose that. You put on, as Christians talk about putting on the full armor of God. I
Mhm.
believe that Pac could put on the thug life persona. But what I would really like to know is and nobody could probably ever tell us this. What were his thoughts in those private moments with himself?
Mm. Mhm.
What were those
Exactly.
thoughts? Not when he's around the fellas, not when he's around the boys.
Mm.
What were those moments, those pensive moments?
Mhm.
Um, that's really where you get a true measure of a person's identity.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I have had to fight through is people have a very, very difficult time if they meet me during a lecture, a panel discussion, or some type of presentation. They have a very difficult time comprehending that my natural setting, I am super quiet and painfully shy. It's
Mm.
just who I am,
Mhm.
but I have to put on that cape when it's time to go in and do some work, and I do that, but I take it off as soon as I can, and I,
Mhm.
and I go back and I'm listening to you know something that'll calm my soul.
Right. Let me ask you this, Doc. This white preacher, I watched him, and he was talking about black
Oh,
people.
you getting ready to become a Methodist or something?
No, sir. And I watched him, and he was saying he was trying to sing the song. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen, and he said nobody can sing those songs like black people.
Hmm?
Nobody. He said, I haven't experienced what they've experienced. So nobody can sing like they can. What is it that ties the experience to the song? What is it that brings that experience, to life for others who have not lived that?
I think that's one of those metaphysical intangibles
Mm.
where you can't put a finger on it, you can't touch it, but you
Mm.
know when you're in its presence. And there's a once again when we look at jazz, we look at the blues. Um, those are the wailings and the songs and often the private musings of Black folk who have suffered for hundreds of years.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and he's
Mm.
correct. You can't you can't replicate that. You can go out and get Adele. You can go out and get whoever you want to, but they're not going to be able to go to that soulful place. And let's be truthful and let's be honest, that you don't get that just because you're Black.
Mm-hmm.
You get that through generational suffering and personal suffering. Because there are some people, Public Enemy. You talked about Public Enemy earlier. Had a great song, "Who Stole the Soul."
Mm-hmm.
I believe that without a organic connection to Black suffering and Black folk, that you lose the soul, and your priorities are morphed. And before long, when you look up, you have no idea how you got or became what it is that you become.
Mm. Mm. You know, Doc, I want to ask you because you hit a good point there. Because you have, of course, Blacks in Africa and different parts of the world, even those that are here. And when you compare their singing to the singing of Black Americans, it's not even the same. It's
Yeah.
nowhere near the same.
Yeah.
And do you think that arrives from the intense suffering that we received here?
Yeah. There's no question, no doubt. Yeah. That's where that comes from. That suffering. The truly not knowing how you're going to make it, not only to the next day, but through this personal moment that you're going through right now. That's you can't replicate that. I had a guy who I hung out with in undergrad at Ohio State. Me, I had been to two colleges already, had basically messed up there. And my parents were like, look, you've proven that you can't handle free time, so you got to work. Okay. So I'm working we were on quarters. I'm working a fall quarter to pay for winter quarter. So I'm watching every penny and everything. And I'm almost 24/7. I'm in an economic bind. And that's just what it is. Well, this guy I'm talking about, I don't want to say his name. His father ran a insurance office or an insurance company. He was a suburban kid, and he wanted to fit in with us, so he was always crying broke. Oh, yeah, man, I ain't got it. I'm just broke down. And one day I told him, I said, the difference between you and us? You can pick up the phone and solve all of your economic problems in 30 seconds. Us, we ain't got it. We ain't got it. And we ain't got nobody we can call that'll give it to us either. Okay. He could never understand. He can't simulate hopelessness. You can't simulate what our people have often referred to as God needing to make a way out of no way. You can't do that. Because in the back of your mind, I can make this end at any moment. When it gets too tough, because I believe that knowing that you can make it end at any moment allows you to suffer longer, your form of suffering, versus those of us whose back is up against the wall. We just learn how to cope. We learn how to carry that forward, and it's one of the reasons why, talking about soul and talking about spirit, it's one of the reasons why Black folk above and beyond everybody else need to be very concerned about their mental health. You need to figure out what works for you. You need to be able to have a safe refuge so that you can get out from under it. Because if you can't, you will break.
Exactly. Now, I want to ask you about, you mentioned acting, and the movie that talked about Fred Hampton. And
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Exactly. Well, the brother that played Judas, I watched the interview he did, and he talked about he needed counseling after playing that role. It messed him up on the inside that he had to seek counseling from playing that role. So, you know, I want to talk about that. About one, how is it you playing that role, and it so disturbs your core that you got to go seek counseling? You know, how is the connection for you? You just the actor. You're not the real person. You just the actor. But from you acting in it, it sends you to seek mental health.
But I believe that that for him it was probably a connection, a too close of a connection of learning the story, number one. And you're talking about the brother that played William O'Neill, the one that betrayed Fred Hampton, to have to deal with knowing what O'Neill did, and you're actually portraying that. It could be a head trip on you. It really could, unless you're so detached from your stuff and you just show up to work and you recite some lines and do some gestures and you go on about your. But if your aim is to feel this character and to give a tremendous cinematic performance, you're going to have to get immersed. You're going to have to link up with the character that you're portraying. And that story, like so many other stories of our people, is one that is disturbing at a deep psychological level, because it has to put you in the mindset of, damn, even when we're trying to be revolutionary, we betray each other at the behest of white folk, you know. But to really continue with that strain that you're talking about the actor needing to have some type of counseling. What about Fred Hampton Jr.?
Yeah.
You know, has anybody really checked on that brother? As you know, and you know, that macho, no, I'm good. No, man, sometimes y'all ain't good. Sometimes I ain't good. You know what I'm saying? And it's just what it is. But we try to soldier through things, and they're not healthy for us, and they're destroying us. You know, and I'm not even talking about this idea of Black men needing to be able to cry. I'm not even talking about a physical cry. I think that we need to be able to develop the tools to be introspective, to figure out that some of this stuff that we go through, some of this stuff that we experience is not normal.
Exactly. You know, and with that same vein, if we look at Malcolm X, and Denzel Washington played that role, and he was talking about in the interview, that you look at where he started in learning about Malcolm and trying to actually live that life of Malcolm, getting up and praying for real and changing his diet for real, you know, really immersing himself into that is what allowed him to actually play Malcolm on the movie screen. And Minister Farrakhan even said that, you know, Denzel did that job. You know, he did it outstandingly. Is it something that as teachers can learn to, I guess, kind of immerse the student into what did you call it? Not Black studies, but Black history, to produce similar effect that would make them love, you know, being Black, their culture, doing things the right way, you know, pushing off more things of the world. Because my thing is, if these two gentlemen immerse themselves into other people's lives that was not them, and produce the product. You know, we see the good and the bad. Can that same method be applied when we're teaching our students?
Yeah, most definitely. But I think that we have to kind of back off of the classroom, and we
Okay.
need to return back home, because I think that it's at home that children are either taught or not taught the discipline to be able to be attentive, to truly learn how to be. Um, the one gift, and I actually have something on my board in my office about this. The one gift, and I can tell you exactly what it says. The one gift that I wish that I could give my students that I can't is intellectual curiosity.
Mm. Mm.
You get those types of individuals who have been taught discipline at home, but they are born with intellectual curiosity. They want to know what's around that next corner. And the
Mhm.
truth of the matter is that most people have that. You're kind of born with that, with the idea
Mhm.
of intellectual curiosity, a desire to know. The problem is that when you have the home site being rife with the Real Housewives of this, the Married to Medicine of that, that's what children begin to gravitate towards. And they go down that rabbit hole, and many of them never emerge from that rabbit hole. The time that they could have spent learning about Ella Baker, Shirley
Mhm.
Chisholm, Baird Rustin, that time is going to be taken up by trying to figure out what Nene them doing,
Mhm.
and that's
Mhm.
that's a problem. So I think that the home is critical in teaching our children how to be, but they need to have intellectual curiosity about something that is worthwhile. Whatever your thing is, let's go ahead
Mhm.
and do that thing. Whatever you like to read, let's push them towards reading that.
Mhm. You know, Doc, you talked about depression, and I
Mhm.
want us to look at the Great Depression, right? And we know that
Wait,
uh,
the historical moment or DMX's album?
no historical moment,
Okay, okay.
historical moment, um, because we know that when the Depression hit, and from the stories, um, white folks was in their office, white men, and jumping out of the windows and killing themselves. But when it comes to us, when slaves were free, they had nowhere to go. They were free, but they wasn't, here, take this, da 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 da. You ain't had nothing. Where I'm gonna do? Where I'm gonna go? You
Yeah.
know, it's been said that if white folks got a cold, black folks got the flu. But
Pneumonia.
yet, exactly. But we're not jumping off the roof. You know, um, can you explain the difference in the mindset of the two groups of people? That one would automatically go to, let me go kill myself, and the other wouldn't. They just, I don't know how the our ancestors who were enslaved, decided, well, we're going to do this, or we're going to move this, blah 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 blah. But they did what had to be done.
Yeah, but see, the thing for me, and I deal with this idea often. I don't believe that human life, and I'm just dealing with Black folk who were enslaved, those who
Mhm.
were turned. I mean, hell, from Reconstruction through the Great Migration, World War One, World War Two, Civil Rights, Black Power, regardless of what era you're talking about. I don't think that we were dominated like people try to say we were dominated,
Mhm.
because I believe that we would have died. I believe that without laughter, without a good time, we would have perished. And so, in saying that, we've always been, and we do it to this day, we've always been very good at carving out a space, a space for a good time. We laugh to keep from crying. You
Mhm.
know, I believe that that's the reason why when you go into many black neighborhoods, you find raucous parties going on. You know, and the same, let's be honest, the same thing goes on in every other community. Okay,
Mhm.
people are engaging to, in many ways, stay viable on this earth. Um, I think that it's less of a race thing. I'm not gonna say less of a race thing. I'll say that it's that we should factor in socioeconomic status um, when we're talking about moments like this. Chris Rock said it from a stage once. He said, "There isn't a white person in this arena who would want to change places with me. And shit, I'm rich." And when you really think about that, there are people who would rather die than to have to live a existence like most Americans do, paycheck to paycheck. They'd rather die, kill me, okay? Because they can't fathom that, and I believe that that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the loss of perspective, and you're seeing people whose faith, people who are really faithless, their God is money. And when their God has been defeated and taken away, they have nothing to do but to fall. Um, yeah, we're not built that way. We've always had some connection, even if it's just being members of Bedside Baptist, meaning that you ain't getting out of bed, but you still connected to the church.
Mhm.
Um, we have something concrete that we rest upon that helps us stand during the most trying moments. Because the truth of the matter is, what are you going to do? Lay down and die? No, you better get up and you better fight and fight through this thing, because life is going
Mhm.
to happen to all of us.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly. I want to take our remaining few minutes and share a video um, and discuss. It is the eulogy of Brother Tyree that this nigga Al Sharpton did. And I say this nigga is trying to rewrite history. And I tell you, it's if I ever get to meet him or Roland Martin, I'm gonna give them both a real good piece of my mind. And by the time I finish getting on their ass, they probably call the police because they're gonna be afraid. Um, I'm gonna play it and let you.
I want
We'll
you
come
to
back to what
turn
you
your
think about it.
attention very briefly to the 37th chapter of Genesis.
I kind of want to speed it up,
It
but I don't
reads,
want
so
you. I don't want
Joseph
to just give you a sound
went
bite. So
after his
we'll let it go.
brothers and found them near Dothan. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Here comes that dreamer, they said to each other. Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of the cisterns and say that a ferocious animal has devoured him. May God add a blessing to the reading of his word. Early this morning before dawn, I did what I often do when I come to Memphis. I went out to the Lorraine Motel. As a youngster, I joined SCLC, Operation Breadbasket. I had been a boy preacher in the Church of God in Christ, and my mother was concerned when I was 12 that I was getting too involved in looking at activism and Adam Clayton Powell and others. She took me to my bishop, Bishop F.D. Washington, who said, I know what to do with him, and he brought me to Reverend William Jones, who led Dr. King's organization in New York, and Reverend Jesse Jackson. And at 13, the year Dr. King died, I was 13 years old. I became youth director of the chapter in New York. So it was my growing up in the King movement in the North after his death that makes me come to the Lorraine Hotel and look at the spot that Dr. King died. This morning, I took my youngest daughter, Ashley, with me. And in all of the ice, I told the story of how Dr. King had came to Memphis to fight for garbage workers, city employees that had no safety. 2 had been killed with a malfunction. And here we are, Ashley, 55 years later, looking at the balcony where Martin Luther King shed his blood for city workers, for black city workers, to be able to work in the police department, work in sanitation. And the reason why, Mr. and Mrs. Wells, what happened to Tyree is so personal to me is that 5 black men that wouldn't have had a job in the police department would not ever be thought of to be in an elite squad. In the city that Dr. King lost his life, not far away from that balcony, you beat a brother to death. There's nothing more insulting and offensive to those of us that fight to open doors, that you walk through those doors and act like the folks we had to fight for to get you through them doors. You didn't get on the police department by yourself. The police chief didn't get there by herself. People had to march and go to jail, and some lost their lives to open the doors for you. And how dare you? Act like that sacrifice was enough for nothing. You ain't in no New England state, you in Tennessee, where we had to fight for you. And you take that position and do what we saw, and then some of y'all got all this mess on social media. Let me tell you something. I don't know what you writing on social media. I know what I saw on the tape. And the tape speaks for itself. They never asked this man for his license. Never asked for the car registration. Snatched him out of the car and began beating him. Nobody mentioned nothing about no girlfriend. Nobody mentioned nothing about no man. They started beating an unarmed man. In the city that they slayed the dreamer, what has happened to the dream? In the city where the dreamer laid down and shed his blood, you have the unmitigated gall to beat your brother, chase him down and beat him some more, call for backup and they take 20 minutes. And you watch him and you are too busy talking among each other. No empathy, no concern. If you read the story of Joseph, when his brothers threw him in the pit, nobody came to help him, like nobody came to help Tyree. Waiting on ambulance service that didn't show up until it's too late. What will happen to his dream? What will happen? Well, we'll just tell them something else happened, but we are going to throw him in the pit. But I come to Memphis today to tell you the same mistake Joseph's brothers made is a mistake you made. You thought you threw Joseph in a pit. You thought you threw Dr. King's dream in a pit. But every time you throw something in a pit, God takes the pit and raises it up and changes the whole world. Let me be clear. We understand that there are concerns about public safety. We understand that there's needs to deal with crime. But you don't fight crime by becoming criminals yourself. You don't stand up to thugs in the street becoming thugs yourself. You don't fight gangs by becoming 5 armed men against an unarmed man. That ain't the police, that's punks. Man said, I didn't do nothing. You kept on going anyhow. Why do they go ahead? Because they feel that there is no accountability. They feel that we are going to get angry a day or two and then we're going on to something else. But some of us do this every day. Some of us believe in the dream has to come true. Some of us are going to fight until we make this legislation happen. I don't know when, I don't know how, but we won't stop until we hold you accountable and change the system. Why do we want to see the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act passed? Because then you have to think twice before you beat Tyree Nichols. You think twice before you shoot at someone unarmed. You think twice before you chokehold Eric Garner. You think twice before you put your knee on Eric Garner's, on George Floyd's neck. Because if you don't have qualified immunity, your wife would be telling you before you leave home, behave yourself. Because we could lose the house. We could lose the car. Behave yourself. Because our savings can be gone. You want to be a tough guy? Well, let's get rid of qualified immunity and see if you learn the same manners you have on the white side of town. You'll have some manners on the black side of town. Well, Reverend Al, you don't understand. How are they going to keep crime down in the black community and at the same time not be tough and rough? Well, they do it the same way they do it on the white side of Memphis. And they keep the crime down without being rough and tough. How do you have the same department that can keep crime down on one side of town without beating folk to death? But you can't do it on the other side of town unless you feel that you can get away with it there. I can't speak for everybody in Memphis. I can't speak for everybody gathering. But for me, I believe if that man had been white, you wouldn't have beat him like that night. We're not asking for nothing special. We're asking to be treated equal and to be treated fair. And just like they marched and boycotted and went to jail for 9 years from the 55 Montgomery bus boycott to the 64 Civil Rights Act, we're gonna pay the same dues to get this George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Reverend, how long? I don't know how long. They didn't know how long it would be when they boycotted in the 50s. It's not about a timetable. It's that we cannot continue to live under these double standards and under these conditions. We don't care how long, but I can tell you one thing, those of you that keep voting against that bill, we're going to vote against you. We got more numbers than the police union. I believe that God will do for us what we'll do for ourselves. And even in the pit, Joseph never lost his faith. Joseph could have gave up. Joseph could have gave out, but in the pit, he still believed in the God of his father. And even as I stand over the casket of this innocent young boy, this young man, 39 years old, with a 4-year-old son that his mother and father and his siblings have to raise, I believe that God will take him, Tyree, out of that pit and use him as a symbol for justice all over this country. I believe that babies unborn will know about Tyrese Nichols because we won't let his memory die. We're going to change this country because we refuse to keep living under the threat of the cops and the robbers. What touched me, I was raised by a single mother. Daddy left when I was 10. Mama raised my sister and I on welfare and food stamps. What touched me is when I heard him calling for his mother. Just like George Floyd is calling for his mother. Something you'd have to be a black man. That the only thing between you and disaster was your mother. To understand what calling for your mother means. Somewhere deep in my heart, I understood Tyree. Because the only thing that kept the kids from laughing at my banana sandwiches in school, because she couldn't afford enough to put meat there, but Mama would make it all right for me. And he knew if he could just get Mother, that they would quit beating him and quit stomping on him. All he wanted to do was get home. Now home, Reverend Jamal Bryant, home is not just a place. Home is not just a physical location. Home is where you are at peace. Home is where you don't have to keep your dukes up. Home is where you're not vulnerable. Home is where everything is all right. He said, all I want to do is get home. I come to Memphis to say the reason I keep going is all I'm trying to do is get home. I want to get where they can't treat me with a double standard. I'm trying to get home. I want to get where they can't call me names no more. I want to get home. I want to get where they can't shoot and ask questions later. I'm trying to get home. Every black in America stands up every day trying to get home. Last night, we went to Mason Temple, Church of God in Christ. And the Wells family and Tyree's sisters and brothers stood there where Martin Luther King gave his last speech. They didn't know that night it was his speech for the last time. I was told by those that worked with King that raised me, and I recounted it with Mrs. King. I worked very closely with Martin III. We're going back to Washington August 26th. During his father's March 60th anniversary, we're going to deal with Tyree and the rest of these issues. And they were told me that that day, April 3rd, 1968, it was raining and storming. Dr. King said he didn't even feel like going to the rally. He had come to Memphis a week before to lead a march for the sanitation workers. And some provocateurs got at the end of the march. You know, there's still some around now that's blacker than anybody else, that's more active than anybody else, that's more street than anybody else. They started a riot at the end of the march. And the press said, oh, Dr. King's day is over. Nonviolence is dead. So he came back to prove that he could march. If it wasn't for so-called militants, Dr. King would have never faced what he faced. That's why all of these people talking bad that you and I don't know, don't have no background on, be careful of who jumps in movements, because they set serious folk up. Dr. King came back, and that day was raining, and he said to Dr. Ralph Abernathy, Ralph, you go speak. I don't feel like going tonight. And they went on to the church, and when they got there, the church was full in a storm. Dr. Abernathy went into the payphone, and he called back to the Lorraine Motel, a black-owned motel. Rue told him to put his call through to room 306. Dr. King picked up the phone. He said, Martin, you need to come. There are thousands here. They didn't come to see me. Dr. King got in the car by himself and rode over to Mason Temple, and he started speaking that night, and something came over him. He said that I don't fear any man. He said, God has allowed me to go to the mountaintop, and I've seen the promised land. And that's the last speech he gave right here in Memphis when he went to the mountaintop. I believe when he looked over, he could see a Barack Obama become president. I believe when he went to the mountaintop, he could look over and see a Kamala Harris sitting as vice president. I believe when he looked over from the mountaintop, he saw black police chiefs. He didn't expect you to disgrace him. He expected you to bring us on to the promised land. That's why I'm still marching. Yes, I got books out. Yes, I got a TV show, but I'm a mountain climber. I'm not going to stop till I get to the top of the mountain. You can call me names on right-wing television. I'm a mountain climber. I expect stumbles to come my way. I'm a mountain climber. You can disgrace me, you can discredit me, but I'm going to keep on climbing. I'm going to climb until Tyrese Nichols gets justice. I'm going to climb until Eric Gardner gets justice. I'm going to climb until we change the laws. We're mountain climbers. We're not day traders. We're mountain climbers. And if God be for us, it's more than the whole world against us. He walks with me. He talks with me. He tells me that I'm his own. He's been food when I was hungry, water.
All right, I had enough of that line, nigga. So, Doc, what's your assessment?
You know, my assessment is quite simply that at one point, Sharpton's actually, it appears as if he's talking about himself.
Mhm.
When he's talking about how people can infiltrate movements and can, and derail them. And then to hear him evoke the name Jamal Harrison Bryant, that was kind of the cherry on top for me. That here you have, the professional mourners who are there, So I mean, it's not powerful. It's predicated upon emotion, and as soon as those emotions dissipate, you're still in the same place you were before. It's sort of the exact same thing with going back, as he says, they're going back to DC for what? For what? To have a show. What are you doing? Where's the programming? Where's the legislation? Where's the movement to really create a independent Black institution that can battle on your behalf like other groups have? You don't see them assembling in DC, every year, for this occasion, that occasion. They spend those resources on building their infrastructure towards freedom.
And Doc, what do you think it would take for our people, who unfortunately, like Tyree Nichols, he was killed by the police. But they don't have the knowledge that you have. Like you said, don't let no Al Sharpton come speaking for you, and he damn sure better not ever think about come speaking for me. But when they see him, they think, oh, Reverend Al is here, and it's like, it's this nigga ain't nobody. He ain't on your side. What does it take?
I wasn't born knowing what I know. And that's the best answer that I can give. It's the answer that Andrew Carnegie gave to the world when he gave his fortune away to put libraries in every American city, study, and really study some more, and then some more and some more, and be very, very cautious about emotionalism, about someone up there huckabucking, as the Black church puts it, revving back, you can change the words. It's the same thing. It's almost as if they're trying to put the people in a hypnotic state to put them back to sleep. They got to study. They got to get out. They got to get out of that mold of thinking that someone is coming to save them, because no one is coming to save them or us.
I wish we had time. And maybe we'll do this next week, because we still haven't even gotten where I wanted us to go.
Derailed by hip hop.
But Tamir Rice's mother broke it down about Ben Crump, broke it down about Tamika Mallory, Al Sharpton, and others, about how they, told her, you're not going to get the bag if you're an angry Black mother. it's not going to happen. You're not going to get paid. And it's like, where's the justice? So they're more interested in keeping you calm, keeping you cool, so you can get a payday, and then they can get a fraction of your payday. But when they in front of the cameras, they talk about justice, this, and we're gonna get justice, and ain't none of them never got justice for nobody. Nobody. Do you think that it's something that has to be done, that we have to be able to point them out and say, you're not about justice, you only about getting paid. That's what you about. It's not about justice. But they use these bait words.
I just think that education and exposure, and also, it's one thing to criticize someone and just say, well, you ain't about X, Y, and Z. That has a role in it and a place in it, without a doubt, in regards to what we're talking about. But it is definitely not a substitute for providing a more suitable alternative. Who do we have that is righteous other than, that can rival a Ben Crump? And then the thing is that there's this great saying, and this is the danger, because Sharpton wasn't always where he is and what he is now. Same thing with Crump. If what people say about him is true, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we have to develop our own and grow our own, and have their priorities be resting upon a pursuit of justice, and not the pursuit of a payday that you ain't gonna do nothing but give back to white folk anyway. So, I think that we have to be about the business of providing alternatives to that. We can sit up and criticize them all we want to, but what do we have to offer those people? They're turning to these people and not really even turning to them. These people are rushing through the crowd like ambulance chasers to get in front of them and saying, we can do X, Y, and Z. Well, nobody else is offering to do anything for them. So they go with that. So I think that instead of criticizing, we need to be informing, we need to educate, we need to guide towards a different way of doing this.
Definitely. Because I look at my record, my record is better than all of them, and I don't have no law degree. I don't have any of that, but I have a love for our people that would allow me to do the things that needed to be done. And for me to get a wrongfully convicted man, out of prison. You remember when we had the brother down in Mississippi that was in jail. Yeah, we finally got him out. And we did what we did straight out of love. We did what we did because it had to be done. I wouldn't mind if Ben Crump just been honest and say, look, I can't get you justice. That's not even the platform I operate on. I'm only here so that I'm going to sue the city for you and help you get paid. I wouldn't have a problem with that because he's being truthful.
Yeah, but the thing is that when you're talking about the murder of our people, an unjust murder, justice isn't an option at all, because true justice would be your loved one getting out of that casket and the offender taking their place. So he could very well sell it very well that way. But to have people buying into the fact that you're going to do something major for them, it's not going to happen. And it's disingenuous. It's lying by omission.
Definitely. And real quick, what did you think about the part where he talked about the so-called militants. If it wasn't for them, Dr. King wouldn't have been killed. And I'm gonna be very honest. When I heard it, I took it two ways, right? I said, well, if the thing that broke out, the riot that broke out, if that wouldn't have happened, would Dr. King still be alive today? And for me, that answer is no. He wouldn't be alive today. They were going to kill him, and they got it done. And it wasn't even the shot that killed him. That wasn't the thing that killed him. You know, smothering him while he on the gurney, that's what killed him. When we hear Billy Kyles come on MSNBC and talk about, you know, I moved out the way so that they could get a clear shot, and the shot rang out, pow! And this man announced that on MSNBC. And it's like, the die was already set. He was going to get that bullet one way or another. Period, point blank.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, with Malcolm, because I think it was France who refused to let him into the country because the die was already set. You know, but listening to Al, he want to blame it on the militants. When their thing, before they got kicked out of the Lorraine by Messy Jesse, they was trying to provide protection for King. And so what's your thoughts on that, Doc?
I just think that the words of Ice Cube, O'Shea Jackson, are ringing in my head right now. His song "My Summer Vacation," where he says it's illegal business and niggas still can't stick together. We're talking about liberation work, and we still can't stick together. There's a role for pretty much everyone who has some discipline and some understanding of what needs to happen. The problem that we have is that when you're talking about this cast of characters, none of them knew what needed to happen and didn't have the courage to do it, even if they did understand it. And there's a cowardice amongst our people that is apparent in their unwillingness to study, their unwillingness to be disciplined. You know, they want to put themselves in a position that is so doggone ridiculous that nobody would consider them seriously. And I believe that is the strategy of a coward. You know, I see that often when I see how our people, you know, I was at a store, and I see sisters and brothers walking around there with bonnets on, you know, bathrobes, you know, pajama pants, what have you. You're a coward because you don't want to even try and compete with these people. You don't want to figure out if you're as good, if not better than they are. And I see a lot of that with our leadership as well. Instead of dealing with the fact that someone killed Dr. King, you turn your mouth towards attacking other Black folk. And it essentially saying, listen, if y'all didn't do nothing, then he'd be alive. Stop agitating for your freedom. Now, they may be their methods of protesting as far as riotous activity and what have you can be refined and can be called in on you know, into question. But you can't question their desire, their urge to do something. Y'all ain't even doing anything. You know, you seem to have an open calendar for any time a notable killing happens. Here come Al. Al, you know, Al didn't know that man. Al don't know us, you know, but that fame, that publicity, you know, well, we're gonna get it on TV and we're gonna and get in for what purpose? You know, it reminds me of something that Du Bois wrote in The Souls of Black Folk, where he says, while around us, the white world looks on with amused contempt and pity. That's what you're achieving. That's exactly what you're achieving. Nothing more and nothing less. You know, you are often proven to be a vaudeville performer for the world to look at. This isn't taken seriously because we repeat it so often.
Exactly, exactly. Well, we are over our time. Doc, you want to go ahead and give your closing remarks?
You know, always highlight of my week, hump day, being here with you, my brother, and, love for everybody, love you people. And until, hug your children and let them know how you feel about them, your boys and your girls.
Definitely, definitely. Love you too, Doc. And I'm gonna say this. If our people can remember when Eric Gardner got killed and his wife did the first little press conference, and they were like, the reporter was like, well, the police officer says he's sorry. He sends you his apology. He didn't mean to do it. And she was like, I don't want his apology. I don't want his, I don't mean to do it. I don't want that now. I don't want none of that. You killed my husband. And a few days later, she was on MSNBC, Meet the Press, with Al Sharpton sitting there. And she says, my husband was selling cigarettes. He was lazy. He was no good. And Al Sharpton just sitting around, looking up, doing like this, while she going off, saying all this thing. And I'm like looking at that nigga, and I said, that no good nigga done got his fangs in her, because all that fire is gone. And on national TV, she's taking shots at her dead husband at Al Sharpton's request.
And Brother Gardner, when Brother Gardner said it, he said, man, I got to go back down there and haunt her ass now.
Exactly. Exactly. And we got to be able to see this thing and understand what it is. That nigga ain't for us. And Tamir Rice's mom made it very, very, very clear who and what they are. She even took it down to the Black Black Lives Matter activists, the LGBTQ people that was there. She even broke it down on them. And so hopefully, Doc, we can get her on the program. I'm working trying to get her to, if she has some time available to come, and maybe she can't do the full 2 hours, but if she can give us an hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I think that would be a great honor for us to have our queen on the program and just talk about what it was that she went through, how is she trying to repair her life now, and whatever needs to be done. But what we do here is so important. It really is. And it touches the lives of our people, even from when we were back on Blog Talk Radio. It touches their lives. And, I'm blessed to be able to do this program with you to touch the lives of our people. And, we're going to do it till the wheels fall off. Just that simple.
And then we'll be rolling on the rotors.
That's right. That's right. But as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm gonna kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
Peace.
Peace.